Okay, so today we'll be looking at question number 7 in tutorial 8 in AutoCAD. So every time in AutoCAD when you start drawing a diagram, you should start off by identifying your layers. So here um, you can introduce 3 layers here. So you can introduce a center line, you can introduce a normal line and the hidden lines. So you can go to layers, select layer properties. So AutoCAD has already entered one layer type here. They usually enter one layer type, but here there's two. So we can ignore the second type and we can introduce a new layer. You can right click and select new layer for our center line. You can give a name as center line. Change the color to something bright. I usually use red for center line. And we can change the line type from continuous by left clicking it, and you get this menu. You can load the type of line that you want. So we want a center line here. So we can select the center option and click OK. Select the center line and select OK. So now we need hidden lines. So create another line type, right hidden. So I usually use yellow as my hidden light type color. So you can choose whatever you want, but make sure to select a bright color. So again, left click on the line type, load the hidden line. So normally hidden lines you denote it with the dash type. So here you can select the dash option and select OK. So now you have your 3 lines. Now we can start constructing our diagram. So normally in AutoCAD, when you start constructing a diagram like this, it's always better to start off with the center line and then offset your vertical and horizontal lines from the center line. So we can select the layer type as center line, select the line, and we can draw approximately, so the total height is 2.38 vertically. So we can draw maybe at a length of 5, tab 90. So that's our first center line. That's going to be basically this line right here. And we can draw 2 other center lines running through these 2 points. So again, it doesn't have to be an exact point, just draw the center line, tab 0. So the length is around 4.88, so I'll have to make sure that the length of this line is greater than 5, let's say. Okay, so now we have a reference vertical and horizontal center line. So now we can start offsetting from these lines. So to get the second center line, I can offset this by 0.75 in south direction, so towards the bottom. So we can do that by selecting the offset option. Go to modify, select offset. They ask us to specify a point and a distance, so we can give this distance as 0.75. So now we have these 2 center lines. So from the vertical direction we can offset this to check. Just want to make sure that this vertical distance is okay. Yeah, so that should be fine. Now we can also extend this. Okay, so we'll have to offset the vertical center line by 1.37 divided by 2 to its left and right direction. So you can go to modify, select offset again. So 1.37 divided by 2. It's going to be 0.685. Okay, so now that we have drawn the other 2 center lines as well, we can start drawing the outer layer. So again, we can get these lines as well from by offsetting. Okay, so the bottommost line is going to be 1. It's going to be at a distance from 1 from this center line, vertical height of 1. So again, we can assume that all these units are in millimeters, so make sure that your dimensions are correct before you start drawing this diagram. So let's offset this by 1. So that's the bottom line. And from the bottom line, you can get the second line from a distance of 0.38 vertically. So we can offset this by 0.38. Okay, so now we have these two lines, we have this center line, and finally we need this line. So that's going to be at a distance of 2.38 minus 1.75. So it's going to be 0.63. And just to verify this, we can always use the linear dimension tool to see if this is correct. So that's 2.38, that's correct. So vertically we have to offset, we need to get this line and this line. So from the center, the leftmost corner line is going to be 1.25 and a distance of 1.25 horizontally. So we can offset, select the offset function. At a distance of 1.25. And this corner line is also going to be at a distance of 1.25 towards the, sorry, not 1.25, it's going to be 3 minus 1.25, so that's 1.75 from the center. And this line is going to be 2.63 from the leftmost corner point. So from here it's going to be 2.63. Okay, so now basically we have this section completed, so we can start constructing this. Later we can move on to this side, but for now let's just draw this. So we can always offset to get the rightmost corner point. It's 4.88 from the leftmost corner point, so that's a total length. So we can offset this point by 4.88 to get the right cornermost point. Okay, so now that we have these lines, we can start to start drawing the initial steps. So this section we can draw it later. For now we can just draw the easier parts of this diagram. So the center line, this is the first center line. Oh, sorry, we need to do one more offset. We need to get these two lines as well. So go to linear dimension. That's correct. So this line has to be offsetted by 0.22 to its left and right direction. So now we can select the only center lines are going to be these 5 lines, 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah, it's only going to be those 5 lines. So just to make this diagram a little less confusing, we can change the actual lines that are running through to its original type. So we can select this line is going to be a normal line, this is also going to be a normal line. So basically you can select all the normal actual lines that are going to be running through this diagram, and you can change the line type. Yeah, so you can go to layers after you've selected each line that you want to change, and you can select can change the layer type. Okay, so from here you can start drawing our two circles here. So these two circles are 0.3 in diameter. So select the circle option. Sorry, first you have to change the layer type to what we want. So select the circle, and here be careful that given us the dimension in diameters, but we are going to measure it from radians. We are going to measure the radius, so it's 0.15. And you can always mirror this. Sorry, no, second circle is going to run from here. It's not a center line, sorry. So you can just draw that again. It's 0.15. So this line is also going to be a actual line, not a center line. Okay, so now we can draw these two cylinders. Oh, this. Yeah, we can draw these two cylindrical shape objects. So you can start by getting the two lines, or you can get this rectangular shape first, and then we can draw the two semicircles. Then you can trim off the unnecessary parts. So go to modify, select trim, select what items you want to trim, select enter, and now you can cut off the unnecessary parts. So we don't want these two semicircles. And we can mirror this shape to get it in the opposite side as well. So go to modify, select mirror, select all the components that you want to mirror, select enter, and there you have it. So now we're pretty much done with this area of the drawing. And we can trim off the unnecessary sections. So select trim, Okay, so now we have this shape right here. So we've drawn the easier section of the diagram. Now we can construct. We can move on to construct the section that's at an angle. So right off the bat, we can draw this vertical line. Sorry, this line at an angle connecting this point to this. And we can offset that line by 0.30 to get the center line of the circles. So select the offset feature. Zero point 0.3. Yeah, so this is going to be the center line running through these two circles. And we can also offset this line by 1 to get the center line of this semicircle. So at 1. So we can draw a line that's going to run perpendicular to this line to get the other center lines. Yes, okay. Now we have gotten a line that's running perpendicular to this angular line. Now we just have to offset it. Yeah, so I just offsetted this line that's running perpendicular to the angled line, and I got another similar line like that from the offset feature at this corner. So now we can offset this line by 0.77, 1.37 and 1.97 to get the other three center lines. So we can give the distance as 0.77 to get the first center line. The second center line is going to be 1.37 and the last center line is going to be 1.97. minus the unnecessary lines and change all of these to center lines. And now we can start drawing our two circles. So the diameter of the circle is going to be 0.3, so that means the radius is 0.15. So this is also going to be a center line. Okay, so we'll have to offset this line by 0.15 on either side to get to draw this rectangle. So you can select the offset feature. Zero point 0.15. And now you can start drawing your square rectangle. Again, change the layer type to what you want. So you don't need these two lines. And now we can start drawing the two semicircles. And you can remove the unnecessary area. Okay, so that's the final diagram here. Now we'll have to move on to inserting the dimensions. So normally what I do is when I start entering the dimensions, I first make sure that my entire diagram is fully defined. And it's sketched first. And then we can move on to our dimensions. So so under annotate, you have this option called dimensions. Just first and foremost, get a sample dimension reading. So here you can see that the dimension size is relatively greater than what I would normally want for compared to the size of the sketch I've drawn. The text is relatively large in size, so you can edit that by going to this function right here, just dimension style. You can click on it, go to modify, and you have this feature called overall scale. So this, when you change the overall scale, what this does is it'll alter the size of the arrows, the size of the lines, and the size of the text style. So since I don't just want to edit the size of the text, I'll change this from 2.5 to 1 maybe. So you can always see that there are other options here. So you can change the text type from here. You can select this option here, and you can select different text types, text styles, the height, width factor, etc. And you can always change the features to your lines as well. So you can edit this to change the length from the dimension, from the tip of the dimension, to how much you want this line to extend. Or you can edit the distance from uh, the line that you want to measure to the starting point of this line. You can edit that by creating the offset from origin feature right here. And there are other options such as changing the type of symbol. So even though we have a closed fill gap here, we can always edit that to closed blank type here. So there you can change the type of arrow that you're using as well. You can change it to a dot maybe, and whatever you want. So we'll just keep these features as the standard ones that you get, and we'll just change the overall scale that we're going to use, and we'll keep that as 1. Select OK. Now we can start entering our dimensions. So select dimensions. start entering. So make sure that when you are entering the dimensions, you have exactly the dimensions that you have here. Don't try to change anything, don't try to add any more dimensions, just give this. That's it. Okay, so I've made an error here. So I'll edit that out as well. The distance from this to the center line has to be 0.63. So that means this line has to be a little close, I guess. So I'll have to move all of these components by 0.63, I guess. Yeah, I'll have to move it by 0.63 from this point. Okay, so I have to edit the portion of the two circles. That's I did wrong here. So I can select uh, these two oval shaped objects and their center lines and edit that only. So from here it has to change by 0.065. So now we can enter the dimensions properly again. So this is why we make sure to enter our dimensions just to check if our drawing is accurate. So there I had a small mistake. You can go to annotate and check the dimensions again. So now it's 0.63. So now we can start entering my vertical dimensions as well. So go to dimensions and start entering that as well. The total length is 2.83. The this vertical height is going to be 0.75. So this side is going to be 1 and this will be 0.38. Okay, so I'm done with the vertical lengths as well. So now we can move on to the horizontal lengths at the bottom. So again, if you don't like the position of your dimension, you can always edit that out as well. So I would prefer to have the 0.44 dimension towards the left side of my sketch, so I can move it by selecting this point. And I would like this to be somewhere here, so you can get. So AutoCAD provides you with all these features so that you can easily get what you want. Okay, so now we can move on to these dimensions. So there's a small issue here as well. I'll edit that out soon. and you can trim the unnecessary sections. And this is going to be the last dimension. So it says 2 times diameter 0.30, so I'll have to edit that by typing that in. So make sure that you adjust all the necessary changes here. Also, it's supposed to be 2 times 0.3. So you can just right click it twice and you can edit what's written. Space X. So there you have it. This is the fully defined diagram for question 7 in AutoCAD tutorial number 8.